I don't know, the beats behind her songs, which feel very antithetical to like the Katy Perry of my memory, which was Katy Perry when I was in high school. So it was Roar Katy Perry, it was Teenage Dream Katy Perry. It feels like she's trying to get to this like really down and dirty place. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with wanting to reestablish yourself. I think what feels so weird is that, like, it doesn't feel like she's given enough up of the bubble bubblegum candy candy pop dancing with whatever, like the icicle bra or whatever with the two sharks Katie. I'm curious about like who would have produced this album. Hi. So I sat down today and decided I was going to listen to Katy Perry's new album. I've been putting it off for weeks because I have read all of the articles that you have about this. I maybe saw like wisps of a conversation on Twitter, like around the music video, which I haven't watched yet. Maybe we'll see how I'm feeling in half an hour about whether or not we'll watch it. But is that a cat I hear? Probably. I should go let her in before she starts screaming. Be right back. I was wrong. There's no cat. Anyway, so I've been putting it off, because I've been putting a lot of things off. If you've been here for a while, you know it's been about 3 months since I last uploaded, which is probably not all that rare for new channels. But yeah, I moved, which is why the background's different. I'm still working on what's going to happen back there. Like, I don't know. My wallet will let my wallet dictate like when, if ever, there ends up being stuff on that wall. So I sat down today to listen to Katy Perry's um, new album 143. I don't know what that's in reference to. Maybe one of you can tell me, or maybe we'll figure it out today listening. But I sort of listened to the first song and a half and realized that I had too many things to say. And that I'd probably be better off just like reacting to it. And just, so we'll see. I made it about halfway through this song, Gimme Gimme, and I definitely have some thoughts. Maybe we start over. Let's start over. You know, I have two thoughts. The first being like that I actually don't think that this would be out of place in a sort of like early 2000s or like sex is fun, sex positive kind of space. It's pretty vibey. I can't say that I dislike it. I am feeling like the production elements on here feel very hyperpop, and hyperpop specifically, not synth pop. Maybe other than that, it's somewhat slow in like tempo. Otherwise, it feels very hyperpop, which is probably the antithesis to like heterosexual sexual fantasies. So I guess there's like, to me at least, an immediate like, oh, that's a bit weird. I'm getting used to this thing again, like talking to a camera. I don't know. We'll figure it out together, friends. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious because, well, did Katy Perry announce this as her like feminist era, or is that how people are like choosing to interpret this? Because yeah, it's not feminism, but like if the question of like, I don't know, there always seems to be like an odd displacement when we're thinking about things like no, it's not feminism if you're still just like centering yourself around a relationship with a man. But there is something to the idea of like a sex positive environment where she as a woman is now getting to consent to her own sexual liberation, which that might actually be like the very essence of girl boss feminism. I'm not sure, but let's keep listening and see what comes out. Do you know what it is too that feels a little weird about this is that it does feel it sounds very Katy Perry. This doesn't sound like a new era for her, and this song is trying to be really sexy. But the song doesn't feel very sexy. And that by that I mean we've talked about in the past, I think we have at least, that like what it means to sound sexy or sound happy or are things that we have like invented to assume a certain characteristic. But like I don't know, in the established like annals, music history, pop history annals of like what sounds sexy, this doesn't like quite feel like it's there. It doesn't feel quite gritty enough, for lack of a better word. It doesn't feel maybe quite slow enough. I think it's the digitalness of it that makes it feel a little bit like robots are trying to figure out what humans think is sexy, but have not quite figured it out. So it is like teenage dream Katy Perry trying to achieve something that feels like, I don't know, maybe like Miley Cyrus, or maybe Ariana Grande, actually, a better example, like version of like sexy. I don't know. I like sort of hate to say it, but I like the 21 Savage parts of this song best. Is that like some sort of colloquialism? I don't know. Trippy. Somebody explain that to me in the comments. You know, what of the two songs so far that I've listened to, we didn't listen to the first one together, but I see maybe this somewhat of a trend in pop music, and you can tell me if you agree. That seems like a desire for, which is probably actually in direct contrast to what Chappell Roan said to that interviewer at the MTV Awards, that like I think the people want more serious music, but they want it still to sound like pop, and so it needs to be some sort of blend between. I think what like someone like Chappell Roan does, like her music is like extremely fun. There's no like doubt about that, but it is very serious. It takes on serious topics and serious ideas. And I think that's maybe what is missing, at least so far from what I'm hearing, like from Katy. Like, these songs are cute and they'd be nice to hear on the radio. I don't know if I really dislike either of them, but I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be doing. And if you've made the claim, which I'm not certain she has, but if you've made the claim that this is going to be like you entering your feminist era, your work probably needs to do a little bit more than just like being the one to say, I want to have sex with a man. Like I don't know that that's like really grasping really hard at a feminist ideology, or like saying that women can be both sisters and mothers and it's a women's world. Like, what does that mean, right? I don't know. Let's listen to the next one. What is it called? It doesn't say. I don't know. Whatever. This is their song. Gorgeous. Featuring Kim Petras. You know, I'm not super familiar with Katy's like last album, the one that she put out in 2020. But I am like very interested in this idea of sort of, I don't know, the beats behind her songs, which feel very antithetical to like the Katy Perry of my memory, which was Katy Perry when I was in high school. So it was Roar Katy Perry, it was Teenage Dream Katy Perry. It feels like she's trying to get to this like really down and dirty place. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with wanting to reestablish yourself. I think what feels so weird is that like it doesn't feel like she's given enough up of the like bubblegum candy pop dancing with whatever, like the icicle bra or whatever with the two sharks Katy. I'm curious about like who would have produced this album. Oh, that's right. Okay. This does explain a little bit, but it's very interesting to me that this very much has the beat is definitely borrowing from not trap. What would I call this? Maybe old style hip hop. But there's not like a single black person on this. I don't know, is Stargate black? So no, yeah. That's, I think, interesting to me. And a little bit of an interesting premise there that like, I don't know, I'll have to maybe add on the screen what I mean by old style hip hop. But the beats feel very like late 90s, early to mid 2000s, like hip hop, not quite rap, but without, I don't know, like these lyrics feel a little bit like what Katy thinks sexual liberation should feel like or should sound like. In that, I think I understand the idea of like sexual liberation as a part of it, like as a feminist ideology. I'm just not sure that Katy has embodied that. Do you know what it is? Actually, it feels very R&B. Yeah. Well, it feels like it wants to be very R&B. Which is, I mean, if you as a white artist want to borrow a little bit from like from a black genre, I don't know if I'm like mad about it, but I also feel like you need to understand like what the general themes are and like what's going out here. And yeah, it feels like a superficial leap into that scene without really thinking too deeply about what actually makes that genre, what the heart and soul of that genre is. Yeah, I wanted to talk about voice. It's really interesting to me. Sorry, like not voice as a philosophical concept, voice as in like Katy Perry's voice. Because Katy is actually probably one of few pop artists whose voice I really dislike. That's not to say that I think she's a bad singer, and I think bad or good is really subjective, obviously. And like as far as what she does, like she hits all the right notes. Actually, I've never heard her live, so maybe she doesn't hit all the right notes. But like it just like to me, she is like her sound is like up in her mask so far that it sounds like maybe just right of like too explicitly nasal. And that with the like, I don't know if it is auto-tune, but just like a little bit of like we'll call it like a chemical element, like maybe we'll call it auto-tune, just like the digital, just like softening it out and making harsher tones sound sweeter and stuff like that we do in post-production, makes it sound just past too digital, to the point where I'm like, am I listening to Katy Perry or am I listening to an AI recording, like an AI post, like, I don't know, like whatever you would call that, like an AI reproduction of Katy Perry's voice? Because this sounds, I don't know. It's probably not the kind of thing if you were listening like just on the radio in your car while doing something else. So like while I'm sitting here and hearing it, and hearing her hold out notes like gorgeous, whatever, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound super duper pleasant. I feel like I have to bring up the Dr. Luke in the room, and obviously he is. I have to put the word allegedly here because I don't think he's actually been convicted of a crime, has he? He's a terrible person. That can just be my opinion. There you go. It feels very weird that this song, like, to be, I don't know. I don't know that this song is like front facing the album, but like, the song like is like very explicitly about a woman making herself like desirable for a man. I don't know, like there's no other way to interpret this. I don't know, like maybe what would Katy Perry's like prescription of that be? But like it, I don't know. The line like, I know you want to take a ride, makes me deeply uncomfortable with that context. Like, do you know he wants to take a ride, or they want to take a ride? Do you know that, or is that just something you've assumed in this like, I don't know, version of, I don't know, girl boss feminism, where sex positivity means that you want to have sex all the time and men are supposed to also want to have sex all the time because gender normativity is a thing. I don't know. Did any of what I just said make sense? It feels a little weird. Anyway, let's move on. This is the third feature in a row. And there's like, what, 4 songs on this album? It's not 4, but like the album is only 33 minutes long. I was thinking that like this was a really interesting like album because I really felt like I hadn't heard any of these songs on the radio, but this is the only one I have heard, and I can tell you that I really dislike it. I don't know, again, I'm like asking this question without the context of her like branding this as her feminist era, I feel like the song is fine. It's not really doing any different work than probably any other like female pop stars, and they're like heterosexual female pop stars particularly, and they're like making sense of their relationships with men. I don't know. I'm his, he's mine. That's probably a little bit weird. And the like making an enemy of other women. Where's that exact line? The on him like a suntan, go and get your own man. The like making an enemy of another woman, because that's annoying. But like it just like I don't know, that feels very plain to the industry to me right now. And other than that, like obviously throughout this whole album, Katy is borrowing pretty hard from Black culture, Black subcultures. I'm a little bit like maybe not confused, but like wondering exactly why Katy seems to be the hit artist against like we gotta stop writing stuff like this. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna skip it though because I've heard the song and I don't think I have anything else to say about it. Okay, what's next? There's also like a hint of like disco revival in this. I don't know if that's actually a term that exists. But maybe like a reinterpretation. It's like this is what 2024 is borrowing from 2010, which was borrowing from like 70s hip hop kind of sound. 20s hip hop, sorry, 70s disco. Yeah, I don't know what that does. I guess I wonder where, like, if you think of disco, I think of like Make Love Not War, freedom fighting kind of deal, which is obviously very present to our like time and place, and music is a part of our time and place. So I don't know. Yeah, let's talk about those lyrics. I got sort of turned up in my head recently because I was thinking about I want to do a sort of re-review of TTBD like 6 months post, or maybe in a year post. In that, like, a lot of people called that album juvenile, and I really sort of take issue with that because I feel like juvenile is only a word that we apply to women. But like how do we describe when a set of lyrics feels like it's not doing a lot of work, they're just sort of there to exist? And I feel like this is like the epitome of that. Is it a crush making me blush? Here I go again, I'm falling in love. Catching my breath whenever we touch. Here I go again, I'm falling in love. That doesn't like... And then my heart goes la-da-dee-da-dee. Which even that I feel like is more complex than what came before, because it's the idea of sort of what Sabrina Carpenter was talking about in Nonsense. Like, sometimes you're like so wrapped up in love you can't find the words. That feels like more makes sense to me. But like there's no depth here. I don't know. There's no depth here, and I like far be it from me to be the person who's like, there needs to be like really strong metaphors for it to be like really good poetry. But like I think some feelings can just be plain and said, but I feel like could we not have come up with anything better than that? And yeah, that's just me. You know, I think this would have been a hit album 10 years ago. Or even 15 years ago. Like, I'm really seeing this would have been a gorgeous album. Maybe not a gorgeous album, but like I think we would have all really liked this album. Well, I don't know. I've never been a clubber, and also in 2014 I was entering college. So, but anyway, but like that, I feel like this album is sort of maybe I'm feeling a lot of the same way that I feel now about Dua Lipa's most recent album, sort of being like I don't know if there's anything like objectionable in here. Like it's going to be played at the club and that's great. But I'm wondering why I'm investing any time like sitting here listening to it. which again, I don't know that there's anything wrong with. There's nothing wrong with just putting out music that is fun and silly, and that there's not a lot of depth to. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also think, like, if you're gonna call yourself a serious artist, and again, theoretically, say that this is like a woman's work while working on an album produced by an alleged, I don't know, I'll beep the word. Anyway, can we skip? I don't want to listen to any more of this. Let's see if anything else happens. You know, I once heard this writer and producer, singer-songwriter on TikTok talking about the song False God, and that a part of songwriting is like knowing when how a song should be produced. I actually think that these lyrics are really cool. I sort of like this. Like, the sun is always rising, like the stars are in the sky. You and I will find each other in every single life. I really like that. And then putting it behind this like 2010s club beat is like weird. Especially because are we 5 or 6 songs into this album? I'm like waiting for there to be a little bit of just like a different sound, something a little bit slower. And I sort of feel like if this song had been a ballad, it might have been a little bit more effective. Because the lyrics are sort of demanding you take them seriously, but the beats aren't. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest and say that I'm not like in the production world, but I'm like sort of seeing here and looking at this, being like, who are all these people, and why did it take you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Is that correct? Did I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Yeah, 8 people to produce a song that has a single verse, and then it just repeats the chorus over and over again with the exact same beat. I don't know. Let's move on. Oh, that sounds like, what does that sound like? That sounds like, I even think it's a Katy Perry song. Like, yeah, if you know what I'm thinking about, drop it in the comments. It's on. Okay. I'm being nitpicky. But this also feels like a weird thing that I'm seeing happen a couple of times now. The word, the amount of syllables in the word doesn't like quite make sense. So you're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's a stupid little phrase. But like, and I keep thinking like, there are songwriters dictionary, like songwriters thesauruses, that I feel like you could have found words that would have rhymed better and wouldn't feel so weird on the ear. Yeah, this is another one that I think I would have actually liked. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have. I feel like I feel bad about this because I sort of expected to like these songs and just think like it's just the wrong album for the wrong moment, but actually I don't like it at all. Which is like very different than Dua Lipa's album, which I thought was great, just not like a hit. But she really just like these songs. I sort of even like these lyrics a lot. I just feel like the production is weird, and I don't like understand why this direction was made. I feel like I can absolutely hear the Dr. Luke influence, and it's just making me feel like it's time for Dr. Luke to retire for obviously more than this reason, but definitely like, I don't know. I don't like it. Maybe it's because I don't like clubbing, but I just sort of am like, it's okay. It's been like 8 songs now. It's been like 8 songs over and over. Overwhelmingly, she's written 1 or maybe 2 choruses, but pretty much only 1 chorus. And then, 1 or 2 verses, but usually only 1 verse, and then just repeats it over and over again. Do you know what it feels like a little bit? It actually feels a little bit like Katy didn't have anything, because I'm also, quite frankly, noticing that she's not been, what is it called? I'll put the word here, on any of these songs, which, yeah, I just don't know if I super duper understand why. Like, it feels a little bit like Katy was like, it's been 4 years since I put out an album. I need to put something else out. So she called up a couple of people and said, do you have something I could do? And then they did this. which would also, I think, account for why it's so short. But I don't like it. I wish I did, because I hate hating art. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't understand the setting at all. And I feel like she's overwhelmingly written. I can't even call them radio singles. Like, I don't think they're that. I feel like she's just written 8 club songs, and that's like sort of it. And they're all generally the same. They're not really doing any different work. You know? Am I supposed to take this seriously? Is this song like an ode to falling in love with AI? What? I can't even take that seriously. This is giving Roar. This is giving, I don't know, the list of any, like, all of the Katy Perry songs that came out like in high school, when I was in high school, which was 2013. But there's like a moment here. This. Yeah, they didn't do a super great job on there. And I mean, from losing our minds, that is really, that's really high. And I feel like unless you're like a serious, probably Broadway trained belter, I can't imagine you'd be able to get up there in your chest voice. So it feels a little bit like bad writing, or at least bad writing for her, to have something that needs to be really high up, but needs to, like, it isn't supposed to be like about like softness, or which is what the head voice is typically used for. Like, it's not soft, and it's not delicate, and it's not so it needs to be powerful, and it needs to be loud, and it needs to be up there, and she can't do it, which is fine, because probably a lot of people couldn't do it. She's just not a belter. That doesn't mean she's a bad singer. And as a result, they have to sort of do it digitally, and I feel like it's like in screaming color right there that you can absolutely hear. It sounds so digital, which is maybe the point, because the song sounds artificial, but like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a classical musician, but just like, I don't know, I don't like it when music sounds too fake. Again, it's what's supposed to separate us from the robots, and I almost feel like I don't know, I don't think it would have been better if she had just like not sung it well, but yeah, I don't like it. I'm laughing about it because I have to, or I would cry. I just recorded for over an hour, and my phone died at some point in it, even though it was plugged in, because I forgot to pull the little switch on the wall that like makes sure that the outlet that you have something plugged into actually like lights up. So that's super fun for me. Anyway, I only have 11 minutes of footage. I'm gonna put it in now so you see it. But let's just pretend. We'll just call this guy. We'll call this. I don't even know what to say. We'll call this video my pre-intro back to YouTube. So, and it's sort of a podcast episode, basically. Yeah, it's a podcast episode. There we go. Because we're just using our listening ears anyway. Cool. All right. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments. And see Past Sharri in 3, 2, 1, go.
That'll be it, guys.
Well, I really liked that. That was really cool. Especially, I see the angles that everybody taking. Demons, a lot of demonstrations, artificial intelligent information. I've been developing truth. That is so cool. There's like a lot in there, which makes it like so much worse that it's like mediated by this like mediocre. I was gonna say crap. Like it just like digital shit. I just don't. It doesn't sound good. It feels. You know what it feels a little bit like too. That that Katy is like somewhat incapable of mediating genuine feelings, like the fear of the artificial and fear of the like robots taking over, and like and the artificial becoming the means by which we understand art now. but she's incapable of not mediating that through romantic love. And I feel like there is a plus. There can be a plus to like making sense of some situations between a woman loving a man, but I feel like this could have been much more serious. I mean, outside of even just producing it differently, because like we've said, I hate the production on this album. But if this had been about like you're a devil in disguise, and who's gonna save us? Yeah, like why are we considering? Like, do you put are you going to love me like a human? Can you touch me in a simulation? Feels like it is malignering down. That's not the right word. Brain fog is a bitch. Like, I don't know, like, it's filtering out what could be some real ideas and real feelings in there that could be really cool. Man, if I was JID, I feel like I'd be pissed that this is how they used my rap. Because the rap's really good. Do you know what some of it is too that I feel like I just noticed? There's like no harmony like anywhere on this album, and even that I think might have added some interest. But it all sounds the same. People get mad at me when I say that, but it just does. Like there's not like any measurable difference in any of these. People got mad at me also when I said this about TTPD, but like if I have to get halfway through the song before I figure out which song it is off of a certain album, like there's not enough. Yeah, like. Of course, songs are supposed to be thematically consistent. Like, albums are meant to be thematically consistent, of course. But, like, this is all the exact same song. And it all sounds like it was written at one of those tech producer desks. I don't know. I'm a classical musician. I'm a snob. Let's be 100% honest. I'm a snob. But yeah, I'm a snob. And I don't get it. I sort of feel like, I don't know, I feel like songwriting is a craft, and even if you start like at a computer, whether you start at a computer or like just with a notebook and a pen, it bears like a certain amount of taking it seriously, and this album doesn't feel like it was taken seriously. It feels like it was a money grab. That's my official opinion. You know what? I actually think that this one's probably, other than maybe the first two, probably the best one I've heard in a while. And I think if it had been earlier on the album, I might have liked it more. Even though the sound is still generally the same, I actually feel like the lyrics are doing much different work than earlier on in the album. I wonder though, like, is there a narrative here to go out, like going after, like if you're falling in love and then now we're getting to like third act conflict, if we were thinking of like a romance book, is that what this is? We'll see. Yeah, this should have been the single. This should have been the radio single, and it should have been the like pre-market single. And actually, I wonder. I think we'll talk about it more at the end. But I think most of what's wrong with a good deal. I shouldn't say most, but a good deal of what is wrong with this album or its reception, I think, has been the marketing. And not necessarily the album itself, but yeah, I actually think so far this is, if not the strongest, close to the top on this album. Yeah, I actually like that one most of all, and it is of interest to me that is one of the few I've seen that Katy Perry is one of the writers on. I wonder if that is. It's also the first song that I was like, oh, who's this about? Like this one, there's some real emotions attached to that, you can tell. Interesting. I feel like if you told me that this was written for a Disney Channel movie, I'd believe you. I actually think I like the idea here. I do, actually. And I might have even been convinced the first verse. And then I was not convinced. I'm going to say once again that I don't understand why there's a club beat behind this, like, empowerment song. Is it, like, feminism? No. It's just like, hey, the world sucks. But if you believe in yourself, it'll get better. It's very, that is just a very juvenile idea, which I guess there's nothing wrong with. I think I might have believed in its sincerity if it was produced just slower, not even as a ballad, but just like slower. But this does again feel very Katy Perry, which I don't know, was the intention to market herself as something different now? I don't know. Yeah. What are people watching on Disney Channel these days? Oh, it's over. Okay. Yeah, I didn't like that. uh, yeah, I didn't like it. I actually sort of thought I would. Um, but I think I alluded to this. I have a feeling that most of what's wrong with this album is just marketing. And it's less that it's a bad album as much as it's just like, if this was supposed to be Katy Perry's feminist era, like I don't even know if you can call it girl boss feminism. It just isn't feminist, period. There isn't even any version of like capitalism Barbie feminism in here. It just is. I feel like for most of the lyrics on here, especially that last song, I was like, hold tight little daisy, don't let anyone tell you you're a weed, come on. That maybe probably could have used a professor of English just going over this with some red tape, or with a red pen. I don't know, I don't want to be like hateful, but I didn't like it. Am I going to say that it's a good album or not a good album? That's not for me to say, but I did not like it. I feel like it, assuming we're saying that like this was supposed to be Katy's like feminist era, I don't know that it promises that. It very much, if you had told me that this was written in 2010, I'd believe you. And I feel like it does itself a disservice by taking some things that could have been very serious and putting them behind a club beat, by borrowing from Black culture seemingly willy-nilly. Yeah, I don't know. Do with that what you will. It's been a long time since I posted a video, so I can't even think like what is like back here. But we'll say, click here if you want to see me. No, wait. Let's wait a second. It's been a long time. So what did you think of this album? Did you like it? Am I interpreting anything wrong? You tell me. And if you want to see what I thought of TTPD in April, click here. And if you want to hear my review on an album I similarly did not think was great but liked more, you can click here to see my review of Dua Lipa's Radical Autism. And I will see you next time. Bye.